Right. This is the last part of chapter 1. Hooray! I know we discussed a lot of content for the first chapter, but we still need to discuss about the properties of matter. Thankfully, these are something you, over the time, acquired and get a feel for this topic. Let me make sure I'm recording this. Yes, I'm recording. So let's discuss these terms. I'm just going to say the term and repeat what it means throughout this lecture. Let's say we can say there are two general properties of matter. One, we can say quantitative property, where you could measure something and express it, like you can measure a melting point or boiling point, or you can measure the density. These are called quantitative properties. And qualitative properties, you do not measure them, but you just feel them, like you taste them, or you smell them, or you touch them, and you look for the appearance of the color, these things. So again, more terms, I'm just going to describe what they meant, because sometimes you might have to communicate one chemist to another chemist, or one scientist to another chemist in these terms. So a physical property, what's a physical property, is one that can be observed or measured without changing the property of the substance, or the identity of the substance. What it means is, excuse me, you could observe a physical property, a color, or melting point, or a boiling point. What is melting point is when a substance converts from solid to liquid. You call the temperature as a melting point. When you convert, for example, ice solid to water liquid, you're not changing water into different compound. You're just changing one state of matter to another state of matter. So these are called physical properties, and you could use them to identify that particular substance, to differentiate one substance to another. For example, if you have an ethanol and if you have water, this pure ethanol and pure water, those two looks exactly same for the look. You couldn't tell the difference one from another. So to identify the difference one from another scientifically, what you could do is you could try to identify the boiling point of ethanol, boiling point of both the liquids, and whichever the liquid has 100 degrees Celsius of boiling point is your water, whichever the liquid that does not have 100 degrees Celsius is the ethanol. That is how you could separate one liquid from another, or you could distinguish one matter to another by identifying their physical properties. But what is a physical change is when state of matter undergoes changes, but it will not change the identity of the matter, like converting one state of matter to another. Like if you convert from solid to liquid by melting it, you are changing the physical state of it. So we call it as physical change, but it doesn't change the identity. And if you can boil off the water, you can say you are changing the identity from liquid to water vapor, but you're not changing the compound identity. It is still water. So a physical change. Physical process is basically separating one compound to another. As if you brew coffee, you basically mixing, if you use a French press, you're mixing water and coffee beans, but you are filtering out to separate coffee beans from the liquid water. So it is called a physical process. Or if you see this scientific experiment example where you are doing the distillation to separate mixture of liquids into a specific liquid. So it is a physical process. But you're still not changing the composition of it because no reaction is happening. You're just separating one compound to another compound. And this technique is called TLC, that we use in chemistry, where if you put it against the gravity in a solution, they will separate one from another. Here you can see they were separated into 3 different states of matter. So this process is called a physical process because you're trying to separate one form of matter to another form of matter. So far we discussed the physical property, physical change, and the physical process, what it means. Now we are going to add 2 more qualities of states of matter to our discussion. One is a chemical property. So chemical property is defined as something that a matter behavior when it comes to interact with another form of matter. Like for example, flammability is a chemical property of a compound. Some compounds has high flammability rating, some compounds has a low flammability rating. Like for example, ether has a high flammability rating because it's its chemical property, that's its nature. Some compounds do not have high flammability. Like water, it does not have high flammability. Corrosiveness, like some metals will corrode, some metals will not corrode. Like iron will corrode easily because that is its chemical property. That is how iron will interact with oxygen in nature. Let's say if you have alumina, alumina will not corrode because alumina chemical property is not to corrode. So they were chemical properties. It is basically explains how it interacts with another states of matter. Chemical change is one that results in changing of the composition of the compound or matter. Chemical change, you can clearly say that, oh, you're making a new compound now. You're synthesizing something new. You only use the word chemical change when you're trying to create some new form of matter by combining the available forms of matter. So one example, simple example is digestion. If you eat food, what you would do is you would convert that into energy by breaking down into smaller molecules. So you are doing a chemical change. Combustion is, when you use the gasoline in your car, you're combusting it to run the car by extracting energy by burning the gasoline into carbon dioxide in the form of in the presence of oxygen. And oxidation is something again same like if you left the apple outside, the half-cut apple, it will turn into brown color because the apple is interacting with the oxygen and oxidized in the presence of open atmosphere. So those are chemical changes. And almost towards the end discussion here, there are two other definitions that we just need to cover: an extensive property and an intensive property. An extensive property depends on, just like it named, it rhymes, extensive property depends on the amount of the matter, like how much matter you have, like how much mass it is going to be, how much volume it is going to acquire. Depending on how much amount you have, it's going to change. Like, do you have a glass of water or a gallon of water or a drum of water? It's going to change, right? It is called extensive property. But an intensive property does not depend on the amount of matter. Like, for example, what we discussed is nature of property. Like mass will have a form of matter will have its own mass and volume property in nature. So it based on how many of the atomic mass units a pure substance is made up of, it occupies its own amount of space and volume in our nature. So which means it has its own intrinsic properties like density and temperature. So those things, for example, if you look at these examples, two different graduate cylinders are filled with 25 ml of water and 50 ml of water. So mass, one is only going to weigh 25 grams, but the graduate cylinder B is going to weigh 50 grams. So they were weighing differently because mass is an extensive property. Volume is also an extensive property. That's why there were two different numbers. But density is an intensive property, or intrinsic property. So that's why both the samples has the same density of 1 gram per ml. Boiling point is not going to change between these two because it is still same matter, because it is an intensive property. And freezing point is also same because it is an intensive property. All right. Let's summarize what we discussed in this chapter so far. We started our discussion with the scientific method. We explained what it is, and we introduced ourselves with SI-based units, and we talked what is a mass is, and what is a temperature is, and what are different units of temperature. We discussed about volume and the density, the derived units of SI-based units, and we discussed the significance of significant figures and how to identify a number of significant figures and how to use them in a calculations. And we discussed what is an accuracy and precision is, and we discussed how to convert one form of measurements into another form of measurements units using dimensional analysis or conversion factors, or same thing. And we discussed and introduced ourselves with the states of matter categories. We defined a substance and two different mixtures and physical properties, chemical properties, and both the extensive and intensive properties. I hope I did a good job and help you understand this chapter. You can always have a chance to talk to me again in the classroom or in my office hours if you have more questions in any one of these topics. Again, watch these videos well, take a good note so that you don't have to repeatedly watch these videos. Okay, good luck.